Welcome to the Big Picture Film Club. My guests today are the team behind A Brixton Tale, which tells the story of a voyeuristic, wealthy vlogger who finds herself drawn to a handsome, shy youth from the infamous Barrier Block housing project. Their relationship with each other and with the camera follows them down a dangerous path. Here is a quick clip from A Brixton Tale.
What's up, bro?
I'm making our film.
It's good. You keep going with this. I might be able to organise a screening.
How are you guys doing?
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, thanks.
So I mean, I just wanted to let's start from the beginning. I guess, why is this an important story to tell, and how did it come about?
Well, it came about probably 5 years ago now, so it's been a long time in the making. So we all met at London Film School, and I wrote it on the screenwriting graduate course there. But it sort of came from a place of sort of teenagehood. When I was a teenager, I went to quite a sort of posh public school where I remember when I was 15, films like Kidulthood were coming out. And a lot of sort of people I would know would appropriate that world and sort of think it was the new cool, and something about that sort of didn't sit too well with me. So I sort of thought it would be something interesting to make a film about, basically. And I suppose Leah comes from those people. Leah, the character, comes from those people, and that sort of sparked this story, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to kind of really dig into the character first of Leah, because I think she's very much the driving force of this film. And how did you go about creating the character of Leah, and what does she represent to all of you?
Well, Leah, I know far too many Leahs. It was very easy to form that character, because they're in my daily life. I suppose we actually battled with the character Leah a bit, in terms of how we would present her on screen and whether we would give her a sort of likability. And I think in the end, we didn't want to make excuses for the things she ended up doing. And so she sort of had to come across as a bit of an antagonist, really, which she sort of ended up doing. But what does she mean to you guys? I mean, you probably know less than I do. But,
for us, there's a slightly more abstract representation, I think, for Leah. For us, I think Leah's character very much represents like the white gaze and the idea of like the colonial aspect almost of appropriation, and the feeling of wanting to possess someone or possess someone's story, or like kind of try and take ownership of maybe someone else's struggle, and I feel like that's something that's quite common in a lot of kind of well-off circles, and we have these days there seems to be this unusual culture of like everyone trying to claim some kind of victimhood, and there's a lack of perspective there a lot of the time. It's like even the most privileged people on the planet, seem to have a chip on their shoulder as if they've had it tougher than everyone else. So there's part of it was that, and the other part of that for us was Leah she's very much a voyeuristic character who tries to create a reality for herself. And she tries to create an identity for herself, because since these days kids grow up seeing themselves on camera from a young age, and like we didn't, so it's like they grow up seeing themselves on camera, seeing other people on camera, and the image seems to blur the lines between there's a blurred line between the image and the reality, and what you convey versus who you are, and your identity seems to be quite blurred with social media. And that's something that we're fascinated with too.
Yeah, and I think the character of Ria is also a character that
takes lots of bad decisions, and it's something like quite interesting from a dramatic perspective. It's the character that is not, she's a privileged person, she's not aware of all of the privileges she's got, and throughout the movie you see this person like taking a series of bad decisions in filmmaking. At some point I was talking to some friends of mine, like, I think this is a manifesto of how not to make films. Like, this is the process we shouldn't go through, and I think for the rest of my life, like, this is the thing, like, okay, this is,
are we doing Aaliyah?
Are we doing Aaliyah? If I ever do Aaliyah, just call me out, and like I will change my route, because this is the route like we shouldn't be taking, of course. So
it's certainly helped us keep manners on ourselves, I think.
And in casting, well, both Leah and Benji, how was that process? Because you kind of need to have, you know, two people who really have that chemistry that you're looking for, in sparks and, you know, in all sorts of dimensions. And so how was that process of kind of casting your leads?
Well, we had Lucy Rands was our casting director, and she was amazing. She had a lot more experience making films than we did, which helped. And she got in like a huge range of Leahs and a huge range of potential Benjis. And what we did during the casting process is that we had everyone from our shortlist from the, you know, from the reads that they sent in. We paired them up differently, just to see what the chemistry was like, to see what they looked like together as well. So for instance, there were some people who gave amazing performances as Benji, but they looked maybe a lot more vulnerable physically than, say, Ola would have looked. And then like that would have skewed it really, really far. Like the Leah character would have become very, very like predatory. You know, it would seem like that much sooner than we wanted it in the film. So once we saw both Lily and Ola acting together, it was like absolute sparks. You know, like you couldn't take your eyes off them. They were amazing. So I think like our mind was made up fairly early on that they were our leads. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we have to say that from the casting, there's Benji and Leah that came to more of a conventional casting process, but the casting process was kind of a double process. Like Dara said earlier on, is we had through Lucy Ann, like Lucy Rand's more conventional actors coming in, but also for the other characters like Benji's mother Rose and Benji's cousin Dexter. Darius, Dennis as well, that came, the guy from the rival estate. These are all people that come from Summer Leighton estate, and we've been working, like, as soon as Rupert, we finished London Film School, we started working on the script all together, and on this project all together, and working a lot in collaboration with the community in the Summer Leighton. So Dennis got involved as exec producer, did some script editing, and then Dexter as well, some lots of the advices, and the Rose as well, and you know, they all got involved in the discussions about the movie and about the script, and it kind of came quite naturally that some of them have been casted to play these roles. So like some smaller parts are people from the estate who have less experience than Benji and Leah. So it was nice to have this mix. And also like Olaus, he doesn't come from Brixton, he's from Peckham.
I think he's moved around. I think
but he knew some people that were really, he got really inspired by some of his friends to play the character of Benji. So it was a world that really close to him, that he really understood, and there were similarities between his life and the character that he really managed to brought in. And I think he did
very close relationship with his mother, you know, just like the character of Benji.
Yeah, so he did a really good job of bringing in a lot of these emotions, a lot of authenticity into the character, and he's done really good job in that.
Yeah, I think if we'd have cast a Benji who was, you know, from the home counties and like had, you know, grown up in a mansion there, I think that the chemistry with the other cast from Summer Leighton wouldn't have been as strong. So his chemistry with Archie, Craig Middleburg, and his chemistry with the cast from Summer Leighton, like Dexter, who's played Darius, I think that a lot of that comes from shared experience, and that was important.
And so a lot of the cast are local, and that's kind of using that sort of I think it creates a sense of authenticity in that regards. I think there's a lot to pull out in this film and discussion points. I was even thinking like how we describe Leah, you know, if the roles were reversed and it was Benji with the camera initially, and he's kind of, you know, looking at, you know, two white females at that, and then he's kind of like approaching them off, we would think of it as stalking. we would think of it in a very a much more aggressive way, and I think there are many talking points that can kind of come out of this film depending on the positioning of the characters. And I know it's you know, I've kind of seen it just that it's said that the film just deals with race, class, and I think ultimately it deals with power. And who has the power to frame stories, and who has the power to influence. So why was this, for yourselves, the first film kind of out of film school that you guys decided to collaborate on and thought this was the right one for you?
I think there's lots of reason that we got involved in that one, but we were, well, that was Rupert's grad script, so, you know, it kind of was natural for him to keep on working on that. And we had done several short films together, the three of us, and we had a good team. I went with Chi as well, and we had a good team. Chi's the other story writer, and we had a good team together. And I think Dara and myself were also in the screenwriting program. We're working on other scripts, and different stories, but there were really similar themes that were in our own scripts that we found into like the Rupert script. So that really talked to us, that we could really draw from our experience and our own like obsessions and interests within, and just really push them and then try to use it as leverage to explore some ideas. And
yeah, each one of the screenplays we were writing in film school independently were about like reframing a narrative through like using the camera and like kind of like collectively a one-trick pony. But
we have the same taste.
Yeah, we have very much the same taste. And we watched a lot of like we independently watched a lot of like Michael Haneke movies and like Lynn Ramsey and Andrea Arnold movies that had inspired us. And I think that the more practical answer to your question, Presh, is that Rupert's script was the best one of the three. It was the closest to being able to film, for sure.
Yeah,
it was the easiest to make. I think.
It was set in London for a start, which helps.
Yeah, well, I was living in Brixton as well. I thought there's something really fascinating about this in that neighborhood. You know, I think the three of us got really interested because there's so many layers in that neighborhood. There's so many complex stuff that is. It's really a rich universe, you know, really rich story world for a fiction story, but in real life, it's just such a vibrant place.
That was one of the challenges, actually. It was like there's so much texture and so many layers socially in Brixton, and so much vibrancy, but you know, there's so much you want to include, and then you get to the point where you have to shoot a film and you have a limited number of days, and you're like, oh, there's so much you leave out in the end, you know. And I think that was something that we struggled with early on, was having to just
how do you tackle this thing,
having to focus and be like, we actually have to, we can't show as much of the texture of Brixton as we would have wanted to originally, because it just would have been surplus to the story, you know.
There was a lot of rewriting on the shoot itself.
Sorry, continue.
Oh no, I'm done.
Oh, okay. On that note, there's a lot of different directions, I think, as you're sort of alluding to, in where the film could go, or where you can expand on certain points in terms of the elements of social class and commentary, and there's, you know, bits even with the interaction of police that can be its own feature-length commentary on that sort of relationship or dynamic. What do you know, how did you decide on what to include in this story, where you have 90-ish minutes to kind of really wrap up a script, but to tell these important themes and to really hit home the key beats of the story?
I think a lot of it came from having story editors from the estates as well. So people like Dennis, Dexter and Rose who experienced similar events to the events that happened to Benji when he gets picked up and dropped off at that rival estate. So there were a lot of stories that we had heard from the estate and who were keen to tell. And
they kind of saw you hearing like, oh wow, this is straight out of a movie, and like we're actually making a movie, so let's make a scene of it. So
but
I think well, I think also I think one of the big thing of the movie, you know, we have these characters starting one place and then ending up in another place, and it was quite clear throughout the process of working on that script that there was a big journey that we wanted to bring these characters through. And I think one of the big questions is like, okay, how do we bring these characters as far as we can into the line that we've set at the beginning of the script, you know? And they're making bad decisions, and how can we bring them as far as we can without going too far into like a so pessimistic script. But
it's everything just had to revolve around Benji and Leah's relationship. Otherwise, the story wouldn't hold together. It wouldn't be coherent. So I guess rather than deciding what to include, a lot of our choices were out of the material we had through talking to the guys what to take out, because it was starting to branch too far away from Leah and Benji's core story.
And on that note, without giving away the sort of final sequences, how did you decide on the end of the story of the film? Because I thought it was interesting that you'd chosen that type of ending. I thought it was fitting, and I liked the ending. I just wanted to know what was the decision made to sort of come to the conclusion you came to?
Yeah, we
again, no spoilers, no spoilers.
Yeah, we spoke about this together yesterday, actually, and some of the earlier drafts were quite brutal.
Oh my God, Precious should have. So we went too far.
So yeah, we wanted to be hard hitting, but we had shown previous versions to a few of our sort of
our mentors,
and they sort of were like, "This is a bit much." But, But actually, the penultimate scene comes from Dara and his relationship with a loved one who had a similar experience to Archie in the film. So that was adjusted from previous drafts as well.
Yeah, the motivation was the same, though. I mean, for him, the stakes really is Archie, you know, in a way, and like throughout the course of the film, with his obsession with the camera and with Leah, is he starts to neglect Archie, and he's who he holds him together, and it's kind of what that consequences lead to. That's always been the same in the story, but we just adapted it to be to take a little bit more from life and my experience with mental health problems. But then also, I think the very ending was always going to be down with this slight hint of hope. You know, it was always going to be not a happy ending, but an ending that at least there's some way out of that situation for some of the characters. I'm not going to go into too much detail. And then the final shot, of course, we'd watched a bunch of Lenny Abramson films in the run-up to it, because his endings are amazing. He has this way of leaving. And now I'm not going to say that we were as successful as he was at it, but he ends each of his films with this question mark. So then when you walk out of the cinema, like you almost get knocked down on the road, because you're in you're in this world of your own, trying to think about where you stand on the issue, or how you feel about it, or trying to project what might happen next for these characters. It's never completely tied up ending, and we kind of wanted to have a sense of that.
It's true.
So the final shot is kind of
the final shot also. I just remember I had forgotten about that, but I think it was also the film Girlhood. The final shot. There was something that we really liked about the ending of the film Girlhood, and we're like, there's something really strong the way they end that movie. Like maybe we can rip it off and
it's a cross between maybe Garage and Girlhood. So so Girlhood actually is kind of maybe the up version of our ending. It's like the more upbeat. But almost identical shot.
But that's something we've done quite a lot, you know, is we studied together for a year, and we have like passion of film since we were kids, and we worked on this project for like a whole year before leading up to the film shoot. So we watched like a shitload of movies together, and we started having these similar references, and we this is amazing, this is a good trick, this is let's try to avoid doing this trick. So we developed a language of the things we wanted to do, not to reference a lot to films, like the ending. It's crazy, I hadn't thought about that since like the talks before the filming of it, but yeah, that was one direction. But also, I think also about the ending, it had such a small budget, this project, but it gave us the liberty to do pretty much whatever we wanted because we didn't have any pressure and we didn't want it to go into like a happy ending. And I guess sometimes when you're tied in with like more money and more needs to sell tickets, and people might want to like have a happier feeling. We're like, well, we have nothing to like, we have no counts to give to anybody. Like, this is our film, this is our message, and this is what we can do exactly what we want with it. So let's just go as honest and as we are with our themes and our view in the world. And yeah, let's hope.
Yeah, we didn't have to have Benji win the lottery at the end of the day. So, yeah, for the studio.
Yeah, Dara, Bertrand, and Rupert, thank you very much for your time today. And yeah, we'll put a link to the trailer. And yeah, let's everyone go out and watch A Brixton Tale and discuss it with your friends afterwards. I think this is I think a film that needs to be discussed, and there's a lot of talking points that can come from this film, educational points that can come from this film. So I hope everyone does watch it. And thank you very much for your time today.
Brilliant. Thank you, Fred.
Thanks.